So I'm in France and I've got a confession to make. I've been eating way too many crepes. And it got me thinking, Pancake Day is just around the corner, and not everyone wants to start their day with a 220-volt sugar rush, but everyone loves pancakes. So in this video, I'm going to share 2 savoury pancake ideas that are not the traditional crepe. They're what's known as a galette. Not this type of galette, this type of galette. And they're famous in the region of France that I'm in right now. They're eaten from morning until night, and for good reason, they're delicious. So let's get into it. So here I've added to a bowl 250 grams of buckwheat flour, 1 egg, a 4-gram pinch of salt, and some cracked black pepper. For this amount of flour, I'm going to use 500 ml of water, but I'm starting with just a dash and beginning to whisk that together. Then I'm gradually adding more, bit by bit, until I have a thick, smooth, but crucially whiskable mixture. Once I'm happy it's smooth, I can add the rest of the water. What I like about using buckwheat is it's not actually a wheat, so it doesn't contain any gluten. I always feel weighed down after eating too many crepes, but if they're made with buckwheat flour, then they're a lot more digestible. Well, for me at least anyway. It has a great nutty taste, not unsimilar to rye bread, so it goes really well with cheeses, smoked fish and meat, even just some salted butter. So in the end it's quite a thin batter, but this will thicken up as it rests. And I'll assess it just before I cook it. I'm going to cover it and put it in my fridge to rest. This could be for as little as 30 minutes, up to around 12 hours. As usual with these things, the longer the better. It gives the flour time to fully absorb into the liquid and time for the flavours to develop and deepen. Around 2 hours later, my batter has been chilling. The consistency looks more or less the same, still looking like single cream. Because every flour is slightly different, yours may have thickened up more than mine. So don't be afraid to add a dash more water at this stage. So, cooking these pancakes is a very similar process to cooking crepes, and I'm sure most of you know how to do that. But I'm going to show you a few tricks I've picked up over the years to help get a nice, thin, evenly cooked pancake, just using a pan and a ladle, the traditional way. This is a crepe pan, but it's not too far from a regular frying pan. The main differences are, it has a defined ridge around the edge rather than a curved one, and it's a little thinner than most frying pans, so it heats up quicker and cools down quicker, which is helpful when dialing in the correct temperature for cooking pancakes. But you can achieve great pancakes in a regular frying pan. Don't think you have to go out and buy a dedicated crepe pan. So, the first trick I don't see enough people doing helps to get even browning across the surface of the pancake, and it's all about how you grease the pan. So I'm adding a tiny amount of butter. Then with a small piece of paper towel, I'm rubbing that around so I've got the thinnest of coatings completely covering the base of the pan. I've seen some creperies here in France using a pastry brush, which seems to work well, but the brush ends up a little bit melted after a while. The next trick I found is the quickest way to get the batter spread around the pan. It's a little detail, but it does make a difference. It's really common to put the ladle of batter directly into the middle of the pan, then try to get it to spread evenly covering the base. I found it's more effective to put the batter close to one of the edges, then do the 360-degree wrist action. The coverage is more even. I find myself having to come back and fill little patches of missing batter a lot less. And the last trick isn't really a trick, it's just to know your stovetop temperatures. For me, I'm flipping between number 6 and 7 out of a total of 9 on this pretty powerful induction stovetop. Okay, so around 2 minutes on the first side, give it a check, see how the colour is, flip it onto the reverse side and just give that another 30 seconds, then out onto a plate to cool. The first pancake is always a bit ropey, but after that you get in the swing of it and it becomes like clockwork. Generally, I add a little more butter to the pan after around 5 pancakes have been through it. But before each one, I just rub the paper towel around to reapply that thin coating of butter. One side note, once I was around 2/3 of the way through my batter, it became a little too thick, so I added a dash of water to bring it back to the right consistency. Okay, so all of my pancakes are cooked and cooled, so let's look at the first filling. This is a classic that's served in every pancake shop that I could see in this city. I've got some sliced ham, some grated Emmental, but this could be any cheese of your choosing really, an egg, and a small pat of butter, around 15 grams. It's very simple, but there's a few details I need to get right. Over to the stovetop, pan onto a medium to low heat. For me, a 4 out of 9. So, butter in, let that melt and foam. You could reduce this amount of butter if you wanted to, but I wouldn't go with too much less, because it's going to help the bottom of the galette brown slowly and evenly. Behind that comes the galette, then the ham, and for this I need to think ahead to what I want the final shape of my galette to be. The most popular I see here are triangles with 3 folds and squares with 4 folds. It's like a little package that presents the egg yolk perfectly in the middle. I'm going to go with a triangle, so I'm folding up the thinly sliced ham into a triangle shape. Then the grated Emmental around the border of the ham. This is going to create a barrier that's going to keep the egg in place. Then the egg is going into the middle of that, a little salt on the yolk, and a little pepper all over. I'm keeping the heat on a 4 and just checking the base occasionally to make sure it's not burning. I'm expecting the egg to take somewhere between 4 and 5 minutes to cook. And once the egg's looking mostly cooked, it's time to do the folds. My egg just needs a little longer to set the white on top, and the residual heat from the cheese and the folded edges of the pancake should speed this up, whilst keeping that yolk beautifully runny. If you like your eggs well cooked, you may have to consider either placing this pan under the grill for a couple of minutes, or flipping the galette to cook the top side of the yolk. This looks and smells incredible. The base is crispy, the yolk is runny. This is the perfect breakfast or brunch in so many ways. Okay, on to the next filling. So this next one is probably more of a brunch recipe rather than breakfast, and it's also very simple. It's going to be smoked salmon with creamed leeks. So this time the prep is going to start with the creamed leeks. I'm just slicing the leek in half down the middle, cutting across that into an even size, around half the width of my little finger. Then submerging all of that cut leek into cold water to remove any grit hidden in the crevices. I'm going to give that 10 minutes for the dirt to settle. Then drain them off and leave them to sit. Next up, into a medium-sized saucepan, a decent knob of butter, I guess around a dessert spoon. I'm getting that to the foaming stage over a medium heat. Then straight in with the leeks and follow them with a little pinch of salt. I'm going to sweat them down for around 5 minutes, occasionally stirring, until they're wilted and look something like this. Then I'm going in with 200 ml of cream and a teaspoon of Dijon mustard. If you're against mustard, I'm going to persuade you not to be. It's a fantastic flavour enhancer, particularly for things like leeks. A little more salt and some cracked black pepper. And I'm going to leave that to simmer, occasionally stirring, for 10 to 15 minutes. Until it looks something like this. The leeks have wilted more, the cream has reduced and thickened. This looks good. Okay, on to the assembling. This one can be done in many ways. You could do a burrito shape. An open shape with all the ingredients just served on top would be cool. The folded shape like we did earlier with the ham, cheese and egg version. What I'm going to do is going to be kind of like a taco. So, knob of butter into the pan. I'm getting that foaming, and pancake on top of that. Just as a reminder, I'm on a low heat, a 4 out of 9 on this induction stove. Then I'm going on top with the leek mixture. I think it's good to point out here that this mixture should be thick. If it was thin and runny, it would be making a mess right now. So if you're in doubt, cook it a bit more in the saucepan and get that cream reduced so it's thick. Once the galette has had a couple of minutes to brown on the bottom, I'm gently folding the sides up, so they're almost meeting in the middle. Then I'm going to serve it straight onto my plate, top with the cold smoked salmon, and finish with some freshly cut chives and cracked black pepper. This is a super simple, quick, tasty version of a galette. If you want to be even quicker and skip the leek stage, you could do a smoked salmon and cream cheese version. I've seen plenty of those on menus around here. And if you go with either of these today, you'll be more than happy. Let your imagination run wild with fillings. There are no rules. And if you're looking for something else, quick, tasty, and a bit different, go check this video out next.